Hello everyone. Today we will talk about how to create a dynamic drill-through report by using parameters. We will use the real case example for the cash flow report. This is also the continuous video from the previous one, how to create cash flow table. In this video, we will go deeper in creating visuals for our cash flow report. Let's dive in. Let's first check the final products. What I'm showing here is the cash flow analysis. On the left is the waterfall report for cash flow movement. It's starting from the operating profit, then continuing to add the cash flow bridge items, such as the changes of inventory, changes of receivables, changes of sales not invoiced, changes of provisions, changes of advances received, so on and so forth, until the end, the net cash flow. On the left, the cash flow item is splitted, starting from the inventories to receivables, sales not invoiced, provisions, advance received, account payables, accrued cost, advances paid, and the other miscellaneous. The bar chart showing the trend view that allow us to easily drill up to the total year, drill down to quarter, then to month. And for the legend, there are also lots of selections. We could view the cash flow items by area, by country, by business unit, and it also allows us to drill down further from the main cash flow items. All right, with this end product in mind, let's go to a blank page. We will create the parameters first, and I will explain what is parameters. Parameters allow us to create the dynamic drill-through report, among other capabilities. In modeling, choose new parameters. I will give this a name. Let's call it cash flow test. Then we will continue to choose the items in this parameter. So first, I will be utilizing the company operational hierarchy mapping. I will choose the first one, the continent for the company. The next, I would like to see country. After this, I will move on to the business units mapping. Then in the end, we will select the cash flow sub-items from the account mapping. Afterwards, choose create. Then we will see a filter appeared. It looks like the filter, but the only difference is in the filter, we can only use one dimension as a filter. Then in this parameter, it is a combination of more dimensions. It's very flexible and help us to choose what we will need. At the same time, in this data pane, we can see this cash flow test parameter is created. If we select the created parameter, the structure will be showing up. We can rename. The first one I will call continent. Second one, country is okay. The third one I could call it business. The last one I call it cash flow sub items. I call it sub items is because we do have the main items that we will talk about later. At the end of each dimensions, we can also decide the order. For instance, I would say, okay, I want business to be in the first place. Then next would be the continent. Country in the third place. So cash flow, the fourth. All right. With this, we can continue to change the formatting of this parameter. Slicer setting. In this, I will choose tell. And I don't think I need the header because each dimensions speaks for themselves already. All right, in this way, it will be rather easy for the end user to read and select. That is the parameter. In this case example, we choose the text dimensions. It can also be used to select different calculated measures. Let's see how these parameters would work. I will choose a simple bar chart. In this bar chart, the x-axis, we will use the quarter. From the running calendar, I choose quarter and year. Then the y-axis, let's choose randomly one calculated measure. From the data fact table, I will choose account payable. So now this gives us the account payable by quarter. Then how do we utilize this parameter? So we will use this parameter to control the legend. Go to the newly created parameter here and drag the parameters. Activate the chart, then drag the parameters to the legend. All right. So now when we do this, we can use the parameter to control the legend in the bar chart display. When we select business, it would give the breakdown by business. When we select continent, it gives the breakdown by continent. Okay, we just through the basics of the parameters, how to create parameters. Next, we will continue to practice together another parameter. In this case, we will use the calculated measures to create a parameter. So once more, go to the modeling, new parameters, fields. This time I will go to the data fact table and randomly choose a few calculated measures. The first one, account payables. Second one, account receivables. Let's choose one more, bad debt provision. Choose create. Now it gives us 3 in this parameter. We didn't give this parameter a name, so we will see this newly created parameter. Now again, activate. We have here account payables, account receivables, bad debt provision. That is good. If we want to rename it, parameter here, I will create a test. Now let's utilize the newly created parameter. I think I will need this after all. Let's modify these lesser settings. Again, choose tell. I do not need header, so good. We have 2 parameters created. The first one is controlling the legend. Now we will use the second one created to control the y-axis. Activate the bar chart. remove the y-axis. Select these test measures and put it into the y-axis. Okay, to keep it, for instance, if we keep it easy to read, like this. Right. This is controlling the y-axis. And the first parameter is controlling the legend. Let's test. Now I select account payables, account receivables. So we will see the bar is changing based on the selections. At the same time, if I choose breakdown only by business. All right, we just walked through how to create parameters. It allows us to create the dynamic drill-through report. The parameters can be used for the text items. It can also be utilized for the calculated measures. It provides the flexibility to help us combine different dimensions and calculated measures and use it to control the visualizations. With this basic knowledge of parameters, we will move on to practice how to create visuals for the cash flow report. We will try to simulate what you see here, the cash flow analysis. Hello everyone, today we will talk about how to create a dynamic drill-through report by using parameters. Before we start, some background. This is the continuous session from the previous video. Two prerequisites are, the first, how to create the cash flow table. We introduced that one in a separate video. The second prerequisite would be the basics of creating parameters. With these two knowledge in mind, our topic is how to utilize parameters to create dynamic cash flow analysis. Let's dive in. So first, we will create a bar chart for the cash flow sub-items. For this bar chart, the y-axis would be the cash flow sub-items. We will create a filter to control the y-axis. This we do not need a parameter because the filter we will need is one dimension only. Select the filter, then the field. The field is from the account mapping. In the account mapping, there's one dimension for cash flow sub-items. Then in the filter panel, I need to remove a few unnecessary field. I will leave only the focused items, including inventories, receivables, sales not invoiced, provisions, advance received, account payables, accrued cost, advances paid, and other. That's what I will need. And to make it look nicer, let's go to the slicer settings. Choose Tile. It will be user-friendly to read. The next, remove the header. That looks better. We will use this to control the y-axis. Now again, bar chart. In this bar chart, we will use the time intelligence for x-axis. Let's go to the running calendar. We will have year, quarter, and this one, and month. For the legend, we will use the already created parameters. Let's take a look for this parameter. It's called cash flow test. We activate. So this parameter is a combination of 4 dimensions. By using parameters, it allows us to switch between different dimensions and also decide the order of it. Now activate the bar chart. I will move the parameter to the legend field. The last one would be the y-axis. What we created here already is the filter based on the account name. Then we need to add the value from the fact table, data fact table. Values. So we can see this time intelligence is working quite well. Drill up for the yearly trend. Drill down to the quarterly, then continues to monthly. Let's test the filter. With each click, the bar chart will only be showing the cash flow sub-items. And then with the legend, it could provide the breakdown between the business, the continent, and this cash flow sub-items works like this. If I choose the accrued deferred cost, then continue to choose the cash flow sub-items, this would continue to break down the accrued and deferred cost into the next level. Let's do a quick recap for the basic idea of this design, which has been introduced in the previous video, how to create cash flow table. In this cash flow data model, we use a single value field. This filter utilized is just one dimension for the cash flow table. This filter is based on the account mapping. So instead of creating multiple calculated measure that might slow down the processing speed, we use one single value field. In addition to that, the dimensions are utilized to help us drill through. For instance, the y-axis is utilizing one dimension based on the account mapping. That will help us to analyze the basic cash flow items, such as the changes in inventories, the changes in receivables, so on and so forth. The parameter created will help us to split the cash flow items into additional dimensions. For instance, it shows us by business, by continent. It can also help us to drill down further from the main cash flow items. If I choose accrued and deferred cost, then choose the cash flow sub-items, it gives us the sub-items beneath the main items. Moving on briefly about visualization. It's always a good idea to avoid any clutter in the visuals. To achieve this goal, we can remove any unnecessary items. the legend is on, and we do not need titles. The legend would speak for themselves already. Then for the titles, we can always rewrite the titles or build dynamic titles in this way. You can remove titles or just add. For instance, let's see, I would call it cash flow items. Similarly, for the x-axis and the y-axis, we do not need title either, just remove title to free more spaces. For the y-axis, similarly, there's no need for the title or a value. Instead, we could add the value to the bar chart. Data label on, total label on. That would give us both the total label and the label for each items. Then continuously, we could also choose the position, the value, decimal. For instance, I choose without decimal. Then move on to the total value. To differentiate, we could bold the total value. And you can even increase the size of the total value or change the color of it. Then the columns, we can easily change the color to the preferred color to make it easier to read and in harmony. So that's briefly about the formatting. The idea is try to avoid any clutter on the page, remove any unnecessary items, well, make it very easy to read for the end users. All right, this is the cash flow sub-item analysis. Let's free some space. And we will build the waterfall chart for the cash flow movement. Let's choose the waterfall chart. We will be utilizing the same data field. Then filter on this page. Let's go to the account mapping table. Because the data model includes more data than the cash flow alone. So in the account mapping, there's one individual dimension that will help us to utilize it as a filter to filter out any account other than cash flow account. So here choose yes. Good. Then next, activate the waterfall chart. Again, the y-axis, we will drag the values from the data fact table. Because it is the waterfall chart, once I drag the values in, you will see the increase decrease in total created automatically. Then for the categories, we will be utilizing the same filter that will help us to break it down into the different cash flow items. This is from the account mapping table. Again, go to the cash flow. Put that into the category. We only see one item called receivables. Why is that? This is because right now in this page, the filter applied controls this graph also. To solve this, we need to edit the interactions. Go to Format and choose Edit Interactions. Then with this filter selected, we will say, okay, we do not want this filter control the waterfall chart on the left. Then click None. So now we can see this waterfall chart is performing very nicely, starting from the operative profit, continue to add different cash flow items, and ending at the total cash flow. At the same time, we would like the filter to control the chart on the right. That is work perfectly. This is apply filter. Let's do it also for the parameter on top, edit interactions. And for this parameter, do not control the table on the left, but control the table on the right. So pretty much we have everything already. Let's do a simple formatting for the waterfall chart as well. The same principle, try to avoid any clutter and remove the unnecessary items. So in the x-axis, remove title. Y-axis, remove value, remove title. That would free up more spaces. And this increase, decrease is good. General title. Let's change the title. I would call it from operating profit to cash flow to make the name more intuitive. Oh, this looks better. There's columns. So we would like to see the increase as green, decrease as red, which is good. For instance, other blue, then the total, I would say maybe I want more darker blue, which is more solid. That's good. The last topic here, we also need to apply the time filter. It doesn't matter for the right chart because it's showing the trend view. But for this, from the operating profit cash flow, we need to choose a time frame. It could be a year, month, or a quarter, or half year, depends on the selection. So we need to add a filter. Let's add a filter. To keep it simple, I will only choose one filter here. In reality, you could use year, quarter, and month. Let's go to the running calendar again. So I will choose quarter and year. Okay, this looks good. Slicer settings. We can either choose single selection or multiple selection. I guess this should be multiple selection. In this filter, it's better to use the drop down. Let's take a look here. We can either select just one quarter or multiple quarters to make it a year. But now one issue is, again, when we select the quarter from here, it changes the graph on the right also. We don't want it to change the graph on the right because it is the trend view. Similarly, edit interactions will help us to solve this. Select the filter, edit interactions. Then we will say this time we would like the filter to control the graph on the left, but do not control the graph on the right. All right, just to recap. We just practiced together how to create visuals for cash flow analysis. In this, we're utilizing a few basic knowledge. The first one is how to create cash flow table in previous video. The second one is how to create parameters. We also utilized some other knowledge, like how to edit the interactions to allow filter or parameter to control different graphs. So in the end, we have this cash flow analysis in one page. On the left is focusing on more static view. It allows us to choose different time frame for a month, quarter, or year. Then it shows from the operative profit with all the movement in the cash flow sub-items to the final net cash flow. On the right, it helps us to drill down further for each items. For instance, when we see, okay, on the left table, the receivables have the negative impact to the cash flow. Then we can continue to drill down to the receivables and show what are the biggest contributors to the unfavorable receivables. So in this case, I'm choosing the total year, 19. Then the corresponding part in the right graph is year 19. Because we are looking at the total year, then we can easily drill up to show the total year figure, receivables. So we can see, okay, it is true for the 29, the receivables having the negative impact to the total cash flow. And the biggest contributor is Europe. Then we can continue to drill down to the country to see from which country in Europe. From business, we can also see, okay, it's mainly from the equipment business. Hope you enjoy this video. And in the next video, we will continue to introduce how to create the year-on-year, quarter-on-quarter comparison for the cash flow report. Thank you for listening.